Привет, привет.
Hello again.
Сегодня мы поговорим, как в
Today
погоне за безопасностью
we'll be
теряете свои
talking
пользователи.
about
А то,
losing
как
your
внести
customers
безопасность
in
вообще тут в
pursuit
ваших продуктах.
of security.
Я бы, наверное,
So
начал с
we'll
вопроса,
talk
но
about
я думаю, его бессмысленно задавать,
usability
потому что
and
если вы здесь,
security kind
то
of
наверняка вы делаете
match
продукты, как
in
бизнес,
your
как
products. So I
разработчики,
believe you do
безопасники,
products like
аналитики,
business, like analytics,
вы
like
на positive days,
developers.
наверняка
You have visited
минимум, а скорее
positive
всего
head
и внедряете
days. So we think about security.
безопасность
You're
продуктов
likely introducing some
и так далее.
mechanisms. You make them secure, and so on and so forth. And the question is, are your products convenient? Okay, raise your hands if you do, if you make them convenient.
Делать продукты
Okay,
неудобно.
sure. Nobody will openly say that their products are inconvenient.
Коробки от безопасников, ну вы сами знаете, да, там таблицы.
Okay, you understand. We have all the spreadsheets coming from the security guys. And by and large, business wants to make money
Опять-таки,
and to introduce some security mechanisms and products to be in line with the regulators' requirements and to protect the data. For the users, it's much more straightforward. It should work, it should be convenient,
мои данные не продают
and so they don't want their data to be sold
на торренте.
somewhere through a torrent. Yeah, but the connection between the business and the user. So you as security guys, you set the security measures which make life difficult for the users. So security should be convenient, otherwise it stops working at all. Okay, that's subject to our further discussion. Okay, who are we and why are we talking about this?
Двоих
Okay,
много лет
we have jointly a lot of years
процессы,
kind of in the
security, создавал продукты,
security field. I have built products, I have built internal products and off-the-shelf products, and in the solar, I'm developing products. And Natasha, I develop the interface. I've been dealing with security for 5 years. Well, we want them to look nice as for usual users, not for security guys. Okay, so why are we here? Why are we talking about this?
вот так выглядит
Well,
цель.
this is the goal. We are talking about the money. We all want to make money. And the more convenient our interface is, the less frustrating they are for the user, the more they are loyal to us, the more likely they are to bring more money out of their pocket. Okay, and now the picture of kind of from the point of view of users.
Плохая киска.
Okay,
Ну еще вот так.
okay, they see it like that.
Ну, выводы нужно
Yeah, we
делать
should
самим.
draw conclusions, I think.
Давайте посмотрим сегодня, может быть, на кейсах.
Okay, let's consider some specific cases. How business protects the users.
Есть, ругают.
Yeah, the users hate it and they go away.
Тогда
Yeah. Okay, let's start with this straightforward thing.
парольные политики.
The
Все мы знаем,
passwords and the password policies. Okay, we know that Dima is a great password, but it's not secure. But Dimon is a great
это демонстрирует.
password, and we can see it in the picture. So why do we introduce this?
Митигируем
Okay, number one, we mitigate the risks of hacking a specific user so that the critical data isn't stolen.
и
Okay, and the regulator tells us, okay, you should use these numbers, these characters, you should use the exclamation mark, an apostrophe,
парольная политика
and so on. And the password policy
кого-то будет
should be like that. Okay, these guys are serious. This is important for the auditor, for the vendor, for the customer, or
И вот
investors.
так вот могут выглядеть предупреждения, как ваш пароль должен выглядеть.
And here are the warnings for you, what it should look like. Yeah, this is for the user. Okay, this is an example of a password policy, which is approved by Stackham. So you can see the special characters, at least 12 symbols. You have the maximum length. You cannot use 5 private passwords. I like this one. Will this protect you as a business user, so they can have QWERTY 1.2 asterisk? No. This password will satisfy this password policy. no problem. Okay, so what will the users do? They will put their password on a sticker. Okay, or they may attach it to the monitor, or they will save it somewhere in Excel spreadsheet, or they'll use one and the same password for all the servers, or they will change one symbol in the password, and that's how they're going to proceed. This is my case too, by the way. When the corporate services want me to change passwords every half a year, that's how I change it. Don't tell it to my boss. And they can use the password manager. Yeah, I think we have gone through these stages. This is our journey. I'm here between stage 4 and 5. Yeah, maybe I have something else. Maybe I have kind of forgotten about it. Okay, going back to your need to look at the password policy. So the most kind of spread attacks are the spear phishing, where the users give like away their passwords, and there is no any policy to protect them from this. And another thing is brute forcing the credentials. So they just, if they see QWERTY 1, 2, 3, so they just go through the list. And they also have password spraying. When your password is leaked somewhere, it's reused for another service, and it's really likely to match. So this is confirmed by my research and by the market research. Okay, so what makes it important for the business? So we lose some money at the registration stage because some new users will not go through the registration process. They don't like it, they cannot do it, and they just go to your competitors. And you also spend money on the IT support and so on. Yeah, users like that who can be, scared by the password. Yeah, this happens. Okay, talking about solutions. So looking at my user experience, well, in my software, we need a password policy, and you have the local users, and it's really hardcore. But in 2025, well, I think you should use the SSO, the magic link, access through your phone or email. I think these are really convenient things, so you should do it. So you could use one account or one code to log in. Well, sometimes there are risks. If you have a leak, then you lose everything, but we might ignore this for now. Talking about the password policy, so if you do need some local users, then it would be nice if you could generate your UX or UI in such a way that it kind of prompts the user to use the password managers. You should properly name the fields. They should be of the right type. And every password manager, but one to the Google Password Manager or something, tell you, okay, I have generated the password, I have stored it, and we don't increase any cognitive load on you. This would be cool. So we've talked about the password policies, and now let's talk about another case when you as a business can say that this user can have only one session at the same time on one device, and that's it, not more than one session. Okay, how can it be motivated? Okay, we can fight with the account sharing problem. So we send a license to an accountant, and they use it as a department. So they kind of abuse their access rights. Okay, we can solve the problem like that. And another thing, well, so you can talk about security here like that. This way, we prevent access from different devices. If some guy from Nigeria, well, tries to get access, maybe he'll get this session or otherwise. So for me, this is not that clear-cut. Well, you can, I think, implement this approach when you have one session at a given moment of time. I think it can be done and also justified. And there are some policies, security policies, telling us that we need to introduce this stuff.
Вот так
Well,
мы хотим это делать.
that's the way we want it to be.
И все, что вы хотите делать с
Okay,
точки зрения безопасности,
you want to do this
понятно.
stuff in terms of security, we understand all that,
Есть одна
but if you limit the user sessions, there are some problems for users because they cannot work on some stuff using two different devices. So what will they do? They will either buy some licenses or on their own or through the business, or if they don't manage to do this, they will add some scripts to support the session or maintain the session or use some other methods we are just unaware of, which will reduce your security and protection.
Все инженерные ручки,
Well, I think that
когда-нибудь
all the engineers present here have kind of cracked something or developed some workarounds. Yeah, you can use the dev tools to remove this stuff and to continue working. Yeah,
удалить просто
yeah, you just
баннер.
reduce the banners, yeah, the pop-up banners, and that's it.
Это ограничение сессий
Okay,
влияет на
so if you
50 на 50.
restrict the sessions, what's the result? So you might have more sales because people have to buy more licenses, or you can have fewer licenses because you'll lose commitment and NPS and so.
Бизнес преподнесет.
And so how is it going to work out? I think it depends on the way the user kind of
Смотри, ключ в том,
hears about it, how the business kind of spreads the word. So we should be quite flexible, but we should kind of find trade-offs between monetization and the user safety and
устройство
security. And you should say, okay, in this tariff you have 3 devices, and it's up to you to decide.
ограничивать не
Then we should try not to limit the session, but we should try to limit some suspicious devices or suspicious behavior. And there you can set some restrictions. So if the user is in one Wi-Fi network, so we don't think that you should limit their access. And the most important thing here is that you should warn the user and you shouldn't block them straightforwardly so that they could take some action,
как-то поработать
like
с сессиями.
deal with their sessions on their own, switch off some of their sessions.
Зайдите на Netflix,
Yeah, you should go to Netflix and you should watch some series on how they do it and do the same thing. Well, now in the Russian services, they do it well. You shouldn't necessarily consult Netflix.
Давайте дальше.
Okay, let's proceed.
Все мы
Capture.
знаем, любим капчу. 1000 раз искали светофор.
We are all big fans of capture. We've been looking for bikes and motorbikes and traffic lights and whatever. So,
И, насколько я знаю,
Там два ответа.
so I think they have capture for Zoomers. Yeah, there are only 2 options here to choose between.
шансы попасть.
Yeah, this
LLM-ки
and I think that
хорошо проходят.
LLMs don't go well through this,
Нас спасет от какого-то
no,
судного дня.
from this test of your clock.
Ну,
Clock with the errors. So maybe this will help us survive.
все из там
So please introduce this.
нулевых, десятых
So I think we remember this from the early 2000s. So why we use this? We want to protect from bots and from fraud abuse of the service. So we reduce
Ну, я
the kind of load on our service, and we have some policies telling us that you should to check whether it's a bot or not. And here are some examples, like how to fight the SMS spam.
Почему вы вводите капчи? Мне только
Okay, so why do you introduce capture?
Ну вот два примера самых
Well,
ужасных.
I can live with it, but there are 2 horrible examples.
Элемент,
So here you should find the element of some shape. This is horrible, and the other
у
example.
меня большого
And this took a lot of time for me to understand what was required, so what the service wants from me. Did you figure it out? No, I didn't. I failed. Okay, if I can go through this once, okay, then it's fine. But when there's capture, just like in this threads example, you know, if it pops up every next screen, I have to go through, and you should pick one out of these 7 pictures, and I couldn't figure it out. Okay, so what do users do in this? So they
уходит на другой сервис, который
they get frantic about it. They can go to another service to solve the problem, or they try to kill the capture here and there, and they might kind of
как это
yeah.
affected бизнес. Конверсия падает на 12-18%.
they can be really nuts about it. So the conversion goes down 12 to 18%. So this is global data. Users leave, and fraud is still there. There are capture farms. We have AI and other ways to solve the problem for you. So why do you think the numbers might be different for the Russian market? Well,
Более терпеливы.
because we are more
Или нет? Ладно. Что вообще с этим всем
passionate.
Опять-таки,
We have more patience or otherwise.
из моего
Okay,
предыдущего опыта,
I have my own kind of solution.
году есть
In
так называемые невидимые
2025, we have this kind of invisible captures.
третьей версии.
So recapture version 3, turnstile from Cloudflare, and they work nice. They analyze metadata, they do behavioral analytics,
Проще нажать
and it's much easier to ticket. I'm not a robot, and it looks like
и при этом,
a more smooth situation. But you can implement it in different ways,
а давайте мы сделаем
and
и пороги,
I think that we should have some
экшены
flexible
только тогда.
thresholds, so that we don't show this for every action, but we should show it only when it's necessary.
Такое чувство.
And then we might have this kind of feeling that it will be more convenient for the user.
Классический слайд,
And the next slide,
старается каждый
which is quite conventional,
каждую презентацию внедрить.
we'll try to introduce it to every presentation. So what shall I do when I go back to my office? So what shall I do? Here's a checklist for you, Natalia. Okay, the first thing for you to do is to try to remember about the context of the product and the context of the user when you introduce security. Don't try to apply it to everyone. You can kind of come to terms with the security guys to say, okay, let us not push these captures everywhere. So we can try to analyze every individual risk on a case-by-case basis.
Попробовать сделать безопасность
You might try to make security a part of the user experience. So this is not just some independent standalone feature. It's a part of the customer journey, which is related to the customer directly. And the better you do it together, the higher the probability is that the user will follow this. So we talked about sessions and restrictions. Try to use some soft restrictions. Don't throw people out of their account. Warn things. Let them do something. Change the tariff. Don't break your customers' necks with captures. Try some invisible protection. Well, it doesn't work if you find some abnormal or unusual behavior, so please kind of take steps, but please don't ban many sessions. Let the user the freedom of choosing how they are going to use the account. And the question is, you should use capture. It's the only way to break the user. Okay, there are some other ways to spoil their life. Okay, and please explain the rules of security in such a way that the users shouldn't take it as punishment. You can use some UX copywriting. You should use some tone of voice for your product and your brand. The marketing department might be helpful here. And please explain it to the support team who deal with the customers, so that they should be kind in explaining their stuff to their users, and so that they just don't tell them go to the documents and read the documents you have signed.
В целом, да, мы должны найти этот баланс.
Okay, we should strike some balance between security and the mechanisms we are introducing, so that we introduce them in such a way that it's all convenient. Security is not necessarily something inconvenient, so we want security
Отдельно,
to be a standalone thing, which is kind of integral part of the user journey. I think that we should be kind and nice to the user. We should tell them, okay, we are here to protect you. We are real security guys. We are not there to interfere with your life. So everything we do for you, so that they are not frustrated. They should all have all the mechanisms clear and transparent for them. And this way, as I mentioned, will increase the loyalty, and they'll bring more cash to us.
Да, как говорится, чтобы у вас все было хорошо, вам нужен простой совет.
To make sure you're good,
коллаб между дизайнером
you need a good old collab between the security guy, developer guy, and UX guy.
она, во-первых,
Security should not stand in the way of making money.
Ну и в целом умная безопасность
And in
помогает.
general, smart security should help the business.
А глупое теряет пользователя.
And stupid security would lose users. And that's it from our side.
QR.
We have two QR codes. You can scan
Я
them.
бы сказал, исследования, подкасты, всякое такое, но чаще всего мемы.
You will find some research and podcasts, and a lot of memes as well,
Поэтому
to be honest. So thank you very much. And now we are happy to answer your questions if you have any.
Класс.
That question is off the microphone. The translator cannot hear it. That's off the microphone.
Да.
Стали относиться к этому процессу более халатно. Ну, то есть ССО сгенерировал пароль, один нас ввел, зачем вообще заморачиваться, вводить один и тот же пароль и также менять, соответственно, циферки в конце пароля, добавлять восклицательные знаки. Это первый вопрос.
Может, давай последовательно. Это очень хороший вопрос.
Okay, let me take this question
Я на
first.
самом деле не видел исследований,
That's a good question, and I haven't seen any research
внедрение ССО глобально
that would look at how the SSO implementation impacts security. I can only speak from my experience. I understand the risks that
раскидываю по множеству сервисов,
I
то, что мне мой Gmail,
replicate
для меня это Gmail,
my single account in many
хорошо,
services.
ну как минимум,
And thank you to Gmail for providing me good security.
я его нигде не использую.
What do we do? Well, at least use a unique password that you don't use anywhere
На
else.
самом деле, да, я видел случаи компрометации.
I have seen instances of compromise when Gmail was compromised
Почта раскрывается.
and it opens the whole box.
Все сервисы, где я зарегистрирован,
I can see in my email all the services where I'm registered. I can see even in the Google panel where this account is
я
used.
не могу пользоваться финтех-сервисами с помощью SSO от
It's good that I can't use any fintech services using Gmail's SSO.
И наши госуслуги.
But then there are other
Это
super
немножко
accounts, such as Gosuslugi or the e-government portal.
зашла во все банки.
Well, I find it really frightening that through that e-government portal, I'm logged on to all the banks.
вселенная госуслуги.
Yeah, so there are multiple universes. There's the Gmail universe, there's the Gosuslugi universe, and there might be others as well.
Здравствуйте, спасибо вам за доклад.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation. I have a question.
Таким образом,
As you talk about passwords,
защитить многофакторную аутентификацию.
why don't you
Пароль мы смотрим в случае,
propose using multi-factor authentication?
забывает их,
Why do we only look at just passwords? Passwords is something that people can forget to change,
Многофакторная аутентификация.
and multi-factor authentication is more comfortable, most probably.
Когда мы говорим многофакторно,
Well, talking about multi-factor authentication,
вторым, третьим каким-то фактором,
we imply that it's a second factor, third factor to a password. We mostly spoke about the first line, which is the password. And in some instances, our suggestion was to use it by another factor, such as the magic link or a code that you would receive in your email or by a text message or by a push message. And it might be what you're talking about, is it? That question is off the microphone.
Даже если у тебя пароли все утекли,
Even if all of your passwords were leaked,
22-24-25 год показывают, что очень
Years.
много утекало.
22, 23, 4, 5
В принципе,
were the years where many leakages occurred.
наши паспортные данные, наш пароль, который мы использовали, они в принципе
So I guess we should accept that
даже если этот пароль
the passwords that we use are very much in the public domain. But had there been the second factor, it would have served as an additional layer of protection. Yes, I do agree.
тут история такая. Нам пришлось
Honestly, the story is as
в
follows.
срочном порядке несколько менять презентацию,
We had to do a quick
был МФА,
revamp of the
его в первую очередь
presentation.
взяли на
we had a different topic, and it was used in a different presentation.
Я по-другому ответила на этот вопрос.
Well, I think I would give a different answer. You say a password plus another authentication password factor. What is the benefit for the user? They would have to remember the password and to look for their phone when the second factor is sent to that phone. Our proposal is to replace that with just one step. So you don't need to remember the password. You will just use the code that is received in your phone.
Я понимаю, поэтому я здесь, и я спорю и с Тёмой, получается, и с вами.
That comment is off the microphone.
Ну,
Ну, благо можно на почту присылать, не обязательно смс-очки.
Or you can send code to email. It doesn't have to be the text
самое со
message.
вторым фактором. Сел телефон, нет сети.
Well, and it's the same about the second factor. Your phone maybe
Приложение для многофакторов.
may run out of battery.
Вот вся история.
There may be no network. So do you think that a password is more reliable?
Политики, класс.
Okay, then just disregard whatever we were talking about. Well, about what's more secure, Artyom is better positioned to answer that. My concern is more about making it convenient for the user. I don't want to come into a situation when first I need to remember my password, then I need to run from my phone, etc. Then I have to use a captcha, and all I wanted to do was to top up my bank account. Or my mobile account. Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your presentation. Very interesting to listen to. I'm also in computer security. I'm on the other side of the users. And I'm getting this concern that sometimes we're trying to make things more convenient for the users, sometimes putting computer security at risk.
Рассмотрим на уровне там законодательных каких-то актов,
So,
что принимается закон.
if we were to look at the legislation,
Почему информационная безопасность не находится во главе и
why
рассматривается
is information security not at the center of attention, so to say,
действие, которое пользователям просто безоговорочно требуется выполнять?
and not seen as something that users
Вопрос.
just must comply with?
Потому что бизнес это деньги.
Well, that's a good question. Well, it's about the business, and business is about the money.
Обычно. Ну и
The stricter the rules, yes, there might be still loopholes, but you may be generating less money.
Ряда продуктов, которые жестко
It depends on the class of products. The products that are in the hands of the government and the regulator, there are strict rules described by the Federal Agency for State Export Control, because without that you wouldn't be able to certify the software, but that is a very different thing. And there's another type of business, mostly B2C, when we just have to follow what the business says. The business would simply say, no, we can't do it like this. And the business say that they are happy to live with the risk, they are happy with risk events materializing, and they just live in this world. Well, this is a classic example, and I think it will always be there. There will be some confrontation between the business, the information security, and the tech guys, but the point is that we want to strike a balance and to make sure that it's both convenient and secure. And also I want to add that personal user security, in security of individuals, is not that well developed. There's not so much information about it. Because of the telephone frauds, well, now the information campaigns start to appear, but I guess we've got to educate users why that is important and why it is needed, and then we would be able to help people understand that security is something that is done for their benefit.
через
Because if you
социальную сеть,
have log-ons to a bank app or your e-government portal through a social network, it's not a good thing. You've got to be reasonable. I agree. It could be a very good thing to mitigate breaches. And we all know that awareness is important.
Будут ли еще вопросы? У нас почему-то
Any
эта сторона
other
зала
questions?
очень активная.
I can see that only this part of the room is active. Yes, again from this side.
Вопрос, почему
My question is this.
нельзя попробовать использовать чисто биометрию?
Why can't we use
Мы сильнее нагружаем
plain biometry? Is that because that increases the
данных есть
load on security? Because there are requirements of to store in security. Okay, so I take that. But then we make the life easier for the user to log on to any service. Well, I think that is our future
И аутентификации. Но
in terms
я
of
по своему опыту
identification and partly authentication. But from my experience, from what I see in the society at the moment,
отторжение
I can see that there's rejection of that, there's lack of trust to, let's call them, providers of such services.
не хотят отдавать.
And for various reasons, users are not happy to have their fingers or their retina scanned.
Таким способом
And at this point, it cannot yet become a mainstream authentication method.
если кто-то
Are there many people who would use their smile to pay?
я делаю,
Not a
я
lot of
очень.
people. Well, I did that. I used that.
У меня такое замечание, в последние 3 года особенно актуальное.
I have a comment.
Можно использовать посмертно.
In the past 3 years, your biometries can be used even after you are not longer alive. And in the areas of the special military operation, there are examples of that. So I think biometry has still a long way to go to generate trust.
Пробел в законодательстве, который позволяет
Do you think that's a technical gap or that's a legislative gap that allows to do
Банально
that?
отпечаток пальца, банковское
Well,
приложение и перевод.
Very simply, you can use a fingerprint to get access to the banking app and then to make a bank transfer.
Я хотел бы ответить то, что по поводу внедрения биометрии.
I wanted to respond regarding biometry. Well, first, there's a lot of
Со стороны
workload in terms of storing the biometrical data, and there would be a lot of pressure from the regulators on the business to ensure protection and processing, etc.
это уже и используем. Те же самые наши айфоны, она прекрасно используется
Although
на уровне тонких клиентов.
It is used in our gadgets, in our iPhones, etc. It's used in on the level of thin clients. If the business
Паролик
arranges it in such a way that the biometry is stored on the customer side,
использовать.
then yes, it could be used. But you don't want to ask the business to do that
Миллиардных сливов строк.
because there's no trust because of the leaks that have been there.
Нужно со стороны государства очень сильно прокачивать пользователей. Их
Well, first of all, the governments must do a lot of awareness raising among users, including in cybersecurity. It's similar to health. Health is everyone's own concern, and no governments can make an individual to take care of their health or to go and study, etc. I think I hope my comment would be useful. Well, I like how we're starting to get a conversation around this room. Yes, a few words about biometry. Yes, we do have biometry
Используется платить.
on our phones. Sber offers this service, pay with your smile. This is not exactly the biometry that you've got to provide to get a qualified signature. So there is biometry that gives access to certain layers of authentication. So what I'm saying is that biometry requirements are very strict, and there would be a lot of pressure on the business. On the other side, you have your biometry in the phone that you can use on your own, and that you accept the risks, and you can replace your code with Face ID or Touch ID, and it's your risk. But with your biometry, if something happens, at least there wouldn't be access to your other services. But if you submit your biometry to the centralized repository, there's bigger risks. I understand that the legislation would try and push us into that direction because that's convenience for everyone. But there are risks.
Я думаю, пользователь не особо различает биометрия в телефоне.
But I think a user is not very much aware of the difference of the biometry in the iPhone or the biometry that they submit somewhere. So if they can live without submitting their biometry, I think they will. Well, I can feel the pressure from the regulator that sometimes I can't enter the office using my Face ID because we as a company do not comply with the requirements or don't want to comply with the requirements, and sometimes I still have to swipe my card, sadly.
Где твой флиппер?
Well, you are a security guy. Where's your flipper? It's in my backpack.
Еще вопросы?
Any more questions?
Спасибо большое.
Thank you.